Hello everyone, welcome to my Headshot Photography podcast, and today I'm super excited because my guest is one of the leading headshot photographers out of New York, Bradley Lau, and we've been friends for a couple of years, I would say. We've been communicating all the time. You also were one of the participant in one of my workshops, which
Yes.
we had so much fun together. We have a lot of those interesting conversations during the workshop and afterwards. So I'm super excited chatting with you because you living in such a big city, New York, where there's millions and millions of people, and you've been successful headshot photographer for many many years. And I just want to pick up your brain a little bit today, and I would be looking forward to get some interesting informations from you and help other photographers also to
I'll do my
learn
best.
something. So before we jump into this whole thing, if you could just tell me a little bit about yourself. I'm not looking to kind of getting deep into your life, but I would like to
Right.
kind of know a little bit. How did you get into headshot photography? Did you have any experience before, or was just like, this is what I want to do? And also, what make you choose headshots? Because headshots, we all know it's something that it's been not, it's this industry just kind of like developed over the last, I would say, decade, right? Like before then, we had passport photos and, those type of stuff, but headshots, I don't think that was
Well,
something.
not necessarily. I'll
Okay,
disagree with you a little bit.
okay,
So, and I'll explain why in a second.
sure.
I got into this as I think I got into almost every single one of my careers. I'm 50. I'll be 56 in a month. I've had many careers, and I was at a point in my life where I didn't have any career. I had one business I had that I was forced to shut down.
Hmm.
And I was like, what am I going to do? I was a bartender, and I was looking, I went to bartending school and it shut down. And I'm like, all right, I got to do something next. And I didn't know what. And I'm like, I'm not the type of person that gets jobs. I start businesses. And I'm like, I don't know what to start. And I'm bartending one day next to this guy. And it's usually, pretty much everyone who I'm bartending is either like an actor or a model or something, And I'm like, so what do you do when you're not bartending? And he says, I'm a photographer. I'm like, oh, well, that's cool. How's it going? And he says, well, I'm having, problems with this. And he just rattled on all these problems. And I've just always been an entrepreneur. I've always had these little businesses and really into sales and marketing. I read like a new marketing book every week at the time. I haven't done anything in a long time, and I'm like, listen, if it was me, I would do this, 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 and this. Giving all this advice. And I went home that night and I'm like, all that advice that I gave him as the photographer, that meets, and I wish I so had it today, Rafal, but I had a list of what my next business was going to be. It had to meet all these criteria. I don't remember any of them. Like one, it had to be cool, it had to be fun, it had to be creative, and I don't consider myself an artist at all. I had no photo experience, but that day, or like the day after, and I'm like, that's it. I'm going to be a photographer. No exaggeration. I went to a camera store, went to Adorama in New York. There's either B&H or Adorama are the two
Major.
meccas of camera equipment. And I told them I had $5,000 line of credit on this credit card and I need stuff. Like that's literally how I went and how I started. And they're like, well, what do you mean you need stuff? I'm like, I need lights. And I didn't know what a pro photo was, I didn't know anything, what a speed light, I didn't know nothing. I got $5,000 and I want to be a photographer. And they're like, I need lights, I need background stands, I need backgrounds. And I figured I'll be a studio photographer, I guess. I need camera, I need lens, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, well, what are you shooting? And I'm like, I have no idea. Well, how do you suggest a lens? You're doing macro, what? So I'm like, so now the reason why I said to you that I disagree with about headshots, because I'm in New York, and New York is filled with actors and has been since forever. And so I'm like, I'll be a headshot photographer. That's what I'll be. And this was film. So I don't remember what it was. I think it was a Nikon. I don't remember. I know I had Nikons in the beginning. I don't remember exactly what. But yeah, it was film and.
So how long you've been shooting?
Headshots were black and white at the time.
Okay.
No color.
So how long you've been shooting?
How
long you've been shooting headshots?
That's how I started with headshots, and it's been almost 19 years.
Okay. So yeah, we're in a kind of similar path, but I started with weddings, so that was my kind of first.
I did weddings too.
Did you shoot weddings too? Okay.
Oh yeah, I shot hundreds and hundreds of. My mantra was, "I'm a whore. Pay me, and I'll shoot it."
Okay.
I need to make money with this camera in my hand. So I said yes to everything, and I advertised everything. I did babies, I did pets, I did real estate photography, I did jewelry photography, and I loved it. And I did. Obviously, I started with the actor headshots, and so yeah, I tried everything, and I've done everything, and I get very bored easily with many things, and it's so easy for me to drop stuff, and so. The great thing was someone says, "Oh, my friend has this jewelry line, and I got 200 pieces," and I'm like, "Okay, I'll." The beauty of having to figure out how to light jewelry and what lens do you use. Obviously, I can't use. I need macro stuff, and its lighting is different. And how do you get rid of those? So I loved it to figure that out. It was kind of exciting at times and ridiculously frustrating. And I'm like, realize, wow, I this job sucks, and I'm giving you like 90% of it for free, and I quit. I'm not doing the rest of it. But I've done everything.
Okay.
And then
I think each I would say genre of photography teaches you something new, right? Because I deeply believe that if I wouldn't like have this experience from wedding photography, I probably wouldn't be where I am right now, because wedding taught me, especially, working quick, efficient, like dealing with clients, all this shit which we have to go these days on the completely different level. I've learned that from weddings, and I think that was a good experience. And this is what I really like about you. What you're saying is that because we learn from those little things something, right? Like if you're shooting, for example, jewelry, you have to, also work with lighting, you have to figure everything out, and then we always, I would say, solve our problems, right? Because you have issues we have to overcome sometime, and that's what kind of gets you creative and makes your brain think and, try to find solution for some of those challenges. So that's absolutely, that's the great thing. And also what really, I have to say, not shocked me, but I was like, because I know you for a little bit, and I know like you have this entrepreneurial spirit, because I remember we were sitting at the restaurant and you told me one thing which really kind of and I remember you said to me one thing which really kind of hit me, that like you said to me, like, I don't listen to any like photography podcast, I'm listening most of the time to business stuff, right? And I'm just like, wow, like maybe I should do that a little bit more, because you're just listening to all this photography stuff, right? You're talking about lighting and stuff, but business also is a huge part of being successful in this industry, because
100%. I think photography, even though I'm not doing so many things I know I should be doing, to me photography is such a small percentage, of what my quote unquote success. You have to obviously deliver a decent product, but I mean, I don't know if I'm going on a tangent, but for me, my success is because I've just been around for a while. I'll never forget the first time though. Like I shot everything, and it's been maybe 8 years ago that I'm only doing corporate. I'm not doing anything else because I didn't like anything else. I did the other stuff to make money, and I'm like, you know what? I don't like shooting weddings. I don't like shooting, real estate, and it's like the thing I actually like photographing is bankers and lawyers. I don't want to photograph. I don't even shoot actors anymore. I mean, I shot hundreds and hundreds. That's how I started. I was just shooting actor headshots and performer headshots. I don't do that. I do none of it. I think it's just different. Every genre is so different. Different skill sets, different techniques. And I just do corporate. And the reason kind of where I even thought about it is I only did actors, and one day a guy comes in until I had this studio, and he's like, yeah, whatever. I forget. I think it was a real estate guy, and I shot a couple of test. You know, you do your test shots if you're warming up and just checking the lighting. And at that point, I had a digital Nikon. I again don't remember, but it was my first digital camera. And he's like, let me see, and I showed him the back. He's like, oh, that picture's great. Good, we're good to go.
Yeah.
And he paid, I'm like, I haven't even started yet. He's like, no, that's good. I like it. Yeah, it pays your money.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, man, actors, they're like, oh, they got to get into their heads and they got to get the feel and I never understood. I mean, I photographed hundreds of thousands of that, and you'd think these are the people that want to be in front of a camera and love it and that. But for some reason, when they're in front, and I don't think it's my energy, because I think I'm a great. That's one of my. I think half of my skill is my ability to build rapport with people quickly. But the actors took forever. And now, like, I don't spend more than 10 minutes per headshot session, maybe 15 minutes at most on my headshot sessions.
Yeah. So how do you describe your style? Because I know we had also a long discussion about it. I mean, you like images where people are, super positive, they're smiley and all
my
this
style,
stuff.
it's funny. I love that word, and I think some beginners might appreciate, I don't even know what I'm going to say. I'm kind of formulating the words as I'm talking to you. But I remember as a beginner, everyone talks about develop your style. And I'm just like, I don't know what my style is, It's like, am I trying to do something? Should I copy somebody else? But I think it just kind of happens over time. You start to gravitate towards things that you like.
Yes.
And you then will experiment more with those things. Like for you are like the master of the background. Like, your backgrounds are amazing. Forget about your skin and your lighting. Your backgrounds are always ridiculously creative and amazing. And I think that's, that's one of my things that I say to beginners, focus on your background. That's more important than what you're photographing, regardless. I lost track. Oh, but my style is, I'm a happy guy. I'm a happy-go-lucky guy, and I always, I want people to smile. I just think in general in life, if you're online in the deli counter or a Starbucks and there's two people standing there and one of them smiling and one is semi-frowning, you're going to gravitate towards the smiling person. So as every headshot photographer talks about, the two things, it's, what is it? You want two things in your photo. You want confidence and you want approachability, right? You definitely want to have those two things. I value approachability. My scale always, the confidence will be, a standard thing, but I value approachability so much more. So that, every single photo, I think about 90% of my photos that you'll see on my website, which I never update ever, but everyone's got a big smile. Still business appropriate, and I still have to sometimes have clients saying, oh, I look too happy. And I'm like, well, no, you're not showing your bottom teeth. You're not showing any space below the edge of your bottom teeth. So for me, it's still a business appropriate smile. And like I say, I'm in New York. I photograph pit bull lawyers. They're litigators. They're supposed to be tough in the courtroom. But I'm like, in the courtroom now, right? You just kind of, so have this, I so value approachability. So I tell people think about, somebody that you love, bliss. I'm not about I know some photographers talk about that, the eyes got to be really, Clint Eastwood. I hate it. I don't do it. I don't like it. I don't agree with it. But, to each his own.
Well, I really like your style, and then I think I also trying to learn and absorb some of those stuff from different photographers, right?
Right, as we always do.
Yes.
That's the reason why I came to you.
Okay.
I've been an established photographer, doing pretty well for myself, but I saw you had this just unique style, and I'm just like, I felt a little stagnant. I did the same thing over and over and over again. And even though I learned from you, I know I remember fighting you, and you're like, position the bottom. I'm like, no, I can't. Like, no, it doesn't make sense, which is, I'm okay with it. It's like, this is me. I'm doing my thing. I got to do it. But, I'm like, I'm going to take something out of this, and I've learned, and I got to say, I changed my setup. I use now your setup to this day. And it's great. And it actually, I never even thought like I used to use a key and a fill, two lights, and a lot of the times, and you got rid of the fill for a reflector, and a lot of the times I'm photographing. A lot of times corporate they want to have a blurred city window background, and you put shining lights on glass, and what a difficult thing that can be in getting those angles right. But having that fill light was always a complete disaster. Where I'm going to try to put it higher, maybe look, and so. And again, I didn't even think about this, but after leaving your seminar, and it's like, all right, you got a reflector. I just moved the reflector. Great. There's no more reflection. It made my life so much easier. Yeah. So, anyway.
Yeah. You know what? And again, like we're learning from each other. And I think also what is amazing these days that we become, like I would say, much more friendly to each other, right? Like back in the days, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but my experiences when I started photography to get any information was literally impossible. Like you have to dig in or figure out yourself, but now it's a little bit more different approach. So
photographers can be an odd breed, I think. Yeah. I think a lot of them, I don't get it. They're a little kind of can be uptight and not sharing and. I mean, I get it's your livelihood, but there's just so. I mean, I'm in New York City, so there's, I say there's as many photographers as there are Uber drivers. There's a billion of them, so there's room for everybody. Maybe it's different. I can see how you can be a little more, closed off and not wanting to share. I guess in really small places where any competitor comes and it's going to really affect your business, but it kind of shouldn't. But it's nice to share. I love sharing. Anyone ask me, anyone can happy to ask me, we want to know anything, whatever, a little, I don't have a lot of knowledge, but I got experience, but I got a little bit, and somehow I managed to be,
and I also think if you start sharing your stuff, you how I can describe this, you're gaining more friends than enemies. You know what I mean? Yes. And then, if you helping someone else, hopefully they will, I'm not saying pay you back, but at some point they might help you, if you get stuck at something, right? So that's...
Well, even like your transition, you said you started people asking you questions and you started answering it one, then another, and it's like, hey, I could maybe now go into, teaching on a different level. And it's,
exactly.
Yeah, so it's a
win-win situation. Okay, so let's jump into the next one. And you probably know that I'm not really big fan of this topic, but I want to kind of go over about this with you. So let's talk a little bit about the gear, and then let's talk about what do you use. And I know you are also a photographer who travels to your clients. Yes. And I know it's a different story because I'm actually on the same page. A lot of my shoots are at the client location, so I had to travel. And also I went through some kind of process of basically scaling shit down. Sorry for my language, but I started...
you remember.
Yeah.
Or maybe you don't. When I showed up, for your seminar, you bring all your gear. I know I had this, So I'm happy to talk about the details of my gear, but I can just say this and how it started. I started off, I had and I used them forever. I still have them, but I don't use them. Novatron, I had pack and heads, and 3 heads, in this big hard plastic case. And then on top of, and I had that on one of those wheelie carts. And then on top of that, I had a long background tube like the paper, and then stand, and I had everything. And I would just roll into, and I wheel this everywhere. And the transition came, and I walked. I purposely made sure I'm not only living in Manhattan where the business is, I'm going to make sure I'm living in a spot where it's still, but there's still travel and walk, and sometimes subways, and there's subways without elevators, like I'm carrying 4,000 pounds of gear up flights of stairs. But what happened was, a lot of companies say they want the liability insurance, which is fine. So you got to give them your COI, certificate of insurance. And what ended up happening is I had $1 million liability. Then it started like, we need $2 million of liability. I'm like, okay, I get that. Then the next year we want $3 million of liability. Then we want $4 million. And at one point I'm like, enough. I am done. Okay, I am stopping at this. If my insurance isn't good enough for you, well, I always say, I'm not removing asbestos from the roof of your building. I'm taking a few pictures with a few little lights. So I don't even know how much I have. I think maybe like 4 million or something. But I decided, okay, my gear is now going to change. I'm going stealth mode. I got a roller bag, and I'm like, everything I own must fit in this roller bag. That means my camera, my light stands, my lights, my umbrellas, everything. Which I have since changed, but so I got. Let me see. I'm looking down because I'm trying to find. So I bought. They're ridiculously expensive. I think it's called Nissan. I got these light stands that weigh like not even a pound. They're so ridiculous, like $150 a light stand. They're ridiculous, but well worth it. There is a knockoff called Besson Photo C5888s, and they're these light stands. They're literally 19 inches tall, closed, and they weigh like as much as my phone does.
Yeah.
I've got 3 of those in my thing. I use speed lights. I started off with Canon, 600 EXRT. I'm a Canon guy now. I'm not a gearhead at all. I honestly could care less about gear. People always ask me. I did a photo shoot yesterday, and it's like, "Oh, what kind of gear?" I'm into photography. I'm like, I think I know the name. I think it's a Canon. Yeah. So I'm so focused on it's got to be light and it's got to pack into. I actually have now a case that fits in an overhead. What do you call it? Traveling. Yeah. I forget the name of the brand. But I got 3 light stands. I've got 3. I now use Yongnuo's speed lights as my Canon. The die. I'm like, why am I spending $500? Yongnuo's fine. It's $135. I've got 3 of those. I use for my key light, and I use a background light usually always, and sometimes that's it. And the reflector as a fill. So sometimes I'm just using 2, which is nice.
It's also kind of interesting for me that, the more you are in this industry, you just spending less money on stuff. Because when you're starting, you just spend all the money on the best stuff. And then when you our industry for, let's say, a few years, now you're just like, why should I spend $1,000 on the light? I can get this for $100, right? So it's also... Yes.
And if the color's a little off, who cares? It's not consistent. Who cares? You fix it in post a little bit. Yeah. So I shoot, and I wish, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's my calibration. So I'm a firm. I used to always shoot with my 7200 2.8 Canon. Great lens. I then got the 85. So again, I'm trying to make everything smaller. And I think that's kind of an intimidating lens, especially when you're in a small little conference room and people are right in front of you. And for what I do, I don't need to kind of crush the background too much. And I'm shooting most of the time on just a solid white or solid gray background, or so it's really not a big issue. So I shoot pretty much with an 85. I think it's a 1.8, I guess, Canon. I spend money. I think you should spend money on your body. And spend money on your glass. I have a Canon 5D Mark IV. I've had it forever, and a 5D Mark III. I use both of those. I was going to go to Sony because it was smaller. I still may. I haven't jumped on the mirrorless wagon yet. If it's smaller and lighter, I might eventually. But I'm okay for what I'm doing now. It works. My gear is small enough, so it fits into a one bag. Although I did use your. What's the Island Chrome? Ellen Chrome? How do you pronounce it?
Yeah.
So that I have that you use. So I stole your idea there, and so I keep on my back like an archer as I'm walking through. And that's it. I use a little collapsible. I love collapsible. The 5x7 Oteros or Cape. Backgrounds.
Cool.
That I bring. It just clips on. It's just easy. Easy to move around.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's switch the gears a little bit and let's talk about working in the big city. So what's your biggest challenge? I would say, working in New York, because for me, New York, always was a place where it was extremely hectic. You just go into ants kind of place where people are everywhere and there's like
Right.
things happening. So how, were you born in New York City? Like that's
I grew
where
up
you
in the
spent.
suburbs on Long
Okay.
Island. So no, I was a suburban boy, and moved into Manhattan in 1990.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm all about convenience. My whole life
Mm-hmm.
has always been convenience. I want ease and convenience, and I despise commuting.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a car, good motorcycles in the suburbs,
Mm-hmm.
and then when I moved to the city, it's like I don't have to, I don't have to have a car. That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And then I made sure wherever job I had, for the most part, within reason, I'm within a walking distance. So I always my home was always going to be near my work, so I can walk. That was really important to me. But still, I've got clients downtown in the financial district, and I've got to take, if want to be cheap, not spend a lot of money on a cab, taking the subway. So the big challenge there is just lugging your stuff. Like very often, it's you come out of the subway and there are no elevators, and it's like you're looking up at the stairwell, and it's like,
Workouts
yeah, all right,
coming
I
up.
carry this as much as lightweight stuff as it is. It's still a lot of stuff, and I'm not young, and everything hurts. I got carpal tunnel. I think here, my wrists are all messed up, my knees hurt, my back is always out. So it's like So that's a challenge. But other than that, I mean, again, it used to be getting in and out of buildings. They wanted me to use a freight elevator because I had all the. So now it's just smooth sailing. I always tell my clients, don't tell them I'm a photographer. Just say I got a meeting with Brad, and that's it. And I come in, and it's very rare that I'm now, issuing a COI insurance certificate because it's just a pain. You gotta, every time you send one, they're like, oh, the wording's not right. You got to go back and forth with your insurance company. So, I mean, you need it. You have to have it, but it's just so much easier, and it's very rare these days that I actually have to use it.
Okay.
And then I'm a firm believer. Just give me. I'm in conference rooms every day.
Okay.
And I'm a firm believer. Like people always, they like, here's the conference room. What do you need us to move? And I'm like, no. I have a mantra, and that is, we do not move anything.
Okay.
Nothing will ever be moved. I'll if your chair's got some wheels, I'll roll the chairs out of the way, and I'll do it all. And I also make sure when I leave that I clean
Put it
up
back.
the place. And they always say, "Don't worry." I'm like, "No, I'm going to leave the place exactly as I found it." So the only little challenge is sometimes I'm given these tiny little conference rooms, like, how am I going to make this work? With where I'm positioning stuff, and it's the nice thing, as you said earlier, about we're given sometimes these challenges, and it's nice that we got to use this.
Yeah.
I mean, because for the most part, I do something. I'm not as creative as you. I'm doing the same thing over and over again. I don't change my lighting setups.
Sure.
Like, well, how do you do this for women versus men, old, young? My setup is exactly the same thing.
But let's point out one thing here, because this is something what kind of pushed me to be more creative, and this is exactly what you are talking about. That shooting at the client location, most of the time, like, you got to figure this whole thing out, right? Like, and you have bigger spaces, you have small spaces, or you have like literally no space, and you have to just make shit work somehow.
Yes.
And I think that's what makes you creative. The one thing what I started doing, I think that I started using the location to create a background. And I think that was the biggest, I would say, push towards figure things out and making things work, right? And that's why this whole other ideas. But I think when you
That's nice.
Yes.
But most of the time the clients, they're like, we have this structure, we have, 200 employees on the website, we all want it to be uniform.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree.
They're not using.
Yeah, I 100% agree with this. But what I'm trying also, the point what I'm trying to make is that you have to be, creative on the spot, right? And people who are having studio, I'm not saying like they're lazy or anything, but if you have this like one setup, and it's working, and you just can put the person at the front of the camera, and whatever freaking angle you take it, you always get the shot because you know exactly what's happening. And I think that's what's starting kind of pushing you towards like doing the same thing over and over and over again. And even though like you have to have specific backgrounds, whatever, you still have to somehow move your brain a little bit.
Especially with the window shots. That's always different. Many times the clients will be, they will say, okay, we want some environmental shots. Where should we go? Where do you want to shoot? And then it's like, okay, yeah, let's think about this.
So you are creative. You just don't want to admit
I
it.
love that. That's like, all right, a nice little, change from the routine of. But I love it. I actually love to me, it's not routine because it's regardless of the setup, it's different people.
Yes.
And most of the people, I always make the joke, here's root canal dentists and here's me. I'm not sure if they'd rather be with the root canal or me. Everyone hates getting their picture taken. I'm like, oh yeah, great. You and 1,000 trillion other people that I photograph hate getting your picture taken. And what I love, I have an ego, and it's just always love to hear it when people leave. And they're like, wow, I actually kind of enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I know. Yeah. Tell your boss, tell the marketing manager that hired me that I'm awesome.
So speaking of the business, let's move on to, because we talk about some challenges working in the city, big city. So let's dive into kind of your business practices. So if you of course are willing to share with them, what's the biggest drive to your business? Like are you word of mouth? Are you advertising?
This is where the people that are listening aren't gonna gain much out of it.
Okay.
Because I do everything wrong, and for some reason I'm still successful despite.
Well, so that means you're doing something right. Because if you would be doing everything wrong, I don't think you would be as successful.
What I'm doing right is I can definitely tell you.
Okay.
One of it is what I'm doing well is just longevity that I haven't given up. So I've got clients that have been with me forever. So that's the one thing, getting clients. And how they find me, I'm on Google. I do run Google ads. Couple $100, nothing crazy, but I'm constantly, I always run a couple $100 with the Google ads, and that helps me find new clients.
And you're doing this till today?
Like the Google Maps page, I think is important.
Okay.
Which is free. You don't have to spend any money on that. Make sure everybody has your Google Maps listing. 100%. That's the easiest thing you can do. Another thing for my success is I'm a yes man. I absolutely say yes to everything. I am not a prima donna. There's so many photographers. I won't do this. I won't do that. I don't have the word no in my vocabulary. Sometimes it hurts me a little bit, but I just don't, I'm not creating gigantic works of art. I'm doing headshots that people are going to throw out in a year, and it doesn't matter. I don't have licensing, whatever you want to do. You want to use this in any way you want. I don't have contracts. I have nothing. People call me and say, hey, I got 10 people. Can you come Tuesday? I'm like, yes. Boom. And I shoot them. And then they're like, okay, how do you want to be paid? I'm like, you want to give me a credit card now? You want me to bill you? I don't care. I just don't. I make it as easy as I possibly can for my client. And that's, I know, has been successful. I'm always professional. I'm always quick to respond, to be very responsive. Because I know, listen, if you call me and I don't answer right away, so they're just going to call somebody else. And I make people feel comfortable. But the key to my success is my ability to make people feel comfortable. So I know that when I'm at a new company, they're going to give feedback. And I get it. I've often the person that hires me is honestly, who is it? It's sometimes an office manager, sometimes it's a marketing manager. And they're the ones that they're risking their kind of reputation within the company, right? To hire somebody, right? So they're calling around. And I want to make sure that I'm really, when I'm on the phone with them, that first phone call or email, that I'm giving a lot of information, that I explain exactly how it's going to happen. And, what I do, how I'm going to come in, the amount of time I need to set up, how I'm going to spend, 15 minutes with each person, how I'm going to do it. That makes them feel really comfortable. And then the second key is, and I hear it a lot because, I'm in New York, so people, I'm photographing bankers and lawyers, and for some of them, they're 50. And they're like, I'm like their 20th headshot, Like they've been over the years, they work for different firms, firm to firm, and they have different. And I hear it so often that they say, I've had many headshots, and you're the first person to give this much explanation about how the session is going to go before. So that's the key to my success. I build rapport just by talking about what's going to happen to either the person that's thinking about hiring me or the actual, individual employees that are there in front of my camera. And that little talk, and I like, where are you from, whatever, you have any teams that you like, I talked about, earlier we talked about, my style, and I value approachability, and, I give them my speech. One of my speeches, I don't want you to smile for the camera because it'll look forced, fake, and awful. I want you to think about somebody you love, something you care about, the key is, think about something that you have an emotional connection to. And I always say, I don't exaggerate when I say, I take pictures of your brain activity, not of your face. And if your brain activity is on point, and you're not thinking about, why is this guy talking so much? I got this meeting I got to go to later. I hate getting my headshot taken. And if you kind of go like a person that meditates and is really focusing on the breath and not all that other stuff that goes in, face relaxed, the eyes, that little twinkle in the eye when they're smiling, just a little bit of an improvement. And at the end of the day, I'm not changing much. Shoulder here, shoulder here, shoulder here, shoulder here, head tilt a little bit, but the main difference is always the eyes, and it's like, boom, you had a great moment in that moment, and just that little rapport and me talking is why I'm successful. Plain and simple. It's not my photography skills. I mean, yeah, you can.
Well, I think
these settings and
and I think, and I 100% agree with you with everything what you have said with what to focus on when it comes to headshots. And I think, and again, I've been repeating myself, and probably some companies might be kind of upset with me. I don't care, but I think there's way more push on, like what equipment you should have, and then, they kind of make you think that the equipment is going to make you better photographer.
Right.
But you have to kind of get out of the box, right? You have to looking at, as you said, about who these people are, what makes them happy, how you can kind of pull this out, how they can connect to something emotional. And then that's what's going to make the image, not all this additional stuff, right?
And I can tell you, I'm a dopey sometimes. So I have, the Ellen Crone backpack, and I keep in that my other umbrella and a light stand. And I've been to some jobs where I get there and I'm like, I forgot to bring it. I don't have my umbrellas. I just have my light stands and my camera and my and my lights, my speed lights in my bag. And I'm here already. And again, people are scheduled. They don't have time to reach, Like, all right, down to the job.
But you know what? That's also, I think, lesson to learn for all those guys who are starting off, that you can pull this off without even, I'm not saying without equipment, but if you can even forget something or you're limited with certain things, you still are able to get the shot because you can make this work and you know what is important, right? So that's fantastic. Okay, so let's jump on some heavy topic. How this pandemic or COVID kind of impact your business and how you kind of, I don't know, how you were dealing with this.
It was difficult. Yeah. I was destroyed. First of all, when it first, happened and came out, I was fearful for well, I'm not leaving the house. I didn't leave the house at all from my apartment for months and months and months. And business went to zero. Again, my job was to, I go to offices. And nobody, offices just completely shut down. And it was just devastating, mentally, emotionally, financially. Although we got some, here in the States, I was able to get unemployment. Even though I'm self-employed. So someone mentioned, hey, see if you can get it. I got it. It helped. Surprisingly. But I think I told you a little bit, I had so many careers over the years, and I just either got bored of things, different businesses, and I eventually just, I get bored, I lose. And photography, and I never in a million years would I ever think that, like, I'm 18 or whatever, going to college, and I'm in college for business, and I'm like, you're going to be a photographer. I'm like, there's no way ever that I'm going to be a photographer. Just, you're out of your mind. And it turns out it's the only thing that I really liked doing. I enjoy the work. I enjoy the interaction. It sounds sick, but I kind of like when someone walks in, they're like, I hate getting my picture taken. Awesome. That is a challenge for me. And in the next 15 minutes, you're going to leave here, A, liking your photo, and B, saying, that was a nice experience. And maybe I don't hate getting that picture taken so much. I'm like, photography's over. I literally was like, my career is done. This was also before vaccination, so totally depressed, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I did nothing. I kind of stuck my head in the sand. And I'm like, I didn't take advantage. So many people got fit. So many people write. I like kind of dabble in writing and other things. I did nothing. Yeah, it was bad. It was really bad. And then once the vaccinations came, and things started to open up, and I get like a wonderful, my phone started to ring again. I was like, oh, there's a glimmer of hope. But it was purely devastating because I really thought this career of 18 years that I've had is gone, and I have to start something new at 50. I'm 55 now.
Yeah.
Well, what am I going to do?
Because New York was also really hit hard, right? Like I remember some
empty.
of the news.
I mean, I got Times Square, bustle, pictures where it's just a ghost town. I walked, I live near Central Park, and we walk in it and could look in every direction. Like, oh, there's one person walking their dog in the entire, every direction that I look. It was a ghost town. It was just shut down. Everybody left. Just depressing. And then you start seeing stores close, empty, shut. And still to this day, you see a lot of just empty stores. Very depressing. But now, gangbusters. I'm busy. I'm ridiculously busy. I work every day. And it's great because they're like, oh yeah, we got like 30 people that have been, waiting to get their headshots. So I'm going in. So things are finally good. But it was the worst thing. My business went to zero. Making six figures to zero. And tough. It was really tough. But I'm so grateful. I'm grateful to have it. I'm grateful that the vaccinations are working, that our companies are opening. Still very limited. Like I got this one client, they're like, okay, just email me today. They're like, we're only in the office, Tuesdays and Wednesdays. These are Tuesday and Wednesday that you're free. But it's there. I'm working every day. So yes, here. I know we were talking, and you said how kind of tough it is in Canada, and I really feel for you, and I feel bad because it's part of my soul was destroyed, and thank God I'm so grateful that it's back, and it will be back for you. It will be back for everybody.
Yeah, well, I deeply believe that, and then, I don't know if you agree with me, but I think COVID shifted a lot of stuff online, and people, like a lot of businesses went online. They have to actually go for these transitions from doing business, let's say in the store, going online and doing things more online. And I think that those businesses, they're going to need some kind of presence, and they're going to have showing their employees, they're going to have to showing, who they are. And I think that's a great opportunity for us. It's just, we had to go for that transition. I don't know if you agree with me, but that's what I kind of noticed, that there's a lot
I didn't feel it.
Okay.
When the transition went, okay, everyone's now you're going to work at home, you're going to have Zoom meetings and everything, and you're going to have, you're some type of profile. When you would think that a profile picture was important, the companies that, are hiring these people, I get any phone calls.
Okay.
My phone rings every day. And now it's at the time it was nothing, and I think just the company didn't want to risk. I can remember a company sending this one girl over, and she was angry. She's like, "Here, you want a photo?" And I'm like, "Whoa!" And she was, and I'm telling her how I think she should wear her hair, and she's, "Don't you tell me how to wear my hair?" I mean, like angry, Whoa, what did I do? She's like, because this company sent me to get a photo in the middle of this pandemic. And I'm like, wow, and every photo was garbage, by the way. I'm like, all right, and I called my client, and I remember saying, every photo is garbage, and you're paying me. And your employee's very a hostile person, by the way. Oh my gosh. But I didn't feel that the companies, they didn't want it. But
I'm not saying that during the pandemic,
right.
but I think afterwards.
If you're online, you have to have a presence, right?
Yes.
Even more so. Your about page, your bio. Yes, you need photos. So you're all right that it's gonna only.
Well, what I meant is this gonna I'm not saying that there was like actually, the increase of business during pandemic, because I felt like people are just, as you said, completely freaking out when it comes to photo shoots. Because I had a photo shoot, back in the days, like right at the beginning of pandemic, and the person had a mask, believe it or not, during the photo shoot. And, whenever I was taking shot, they were just kind of taking down and putting back on. But, like, I'm not going to argue with the person. Like, I know he's scared.
Did they say, can't you Photoshop it out?
Well, I think we were close to that, but I was like... But you could see there's a fear, right? There's a fear. Yeah. People are terrified. People are scared. But there's a kind of both sides. Some of them, they're completely, freaking out, but there's people who didn't care at all. So... Right. It was just kind of like, 50-50, I would say.
Here and now, presently, we're right now talking, it's October 28th. It's back to me, it's 100% back to normal. Okay. Like I said, I told you, I did a corporate event, and it was wall-to-wall packed with people in a celebration, big hedge fund client. Okay. And just 1,000 known now. Everyone was vaccinated. I mean, that's the key. You're vaccinated, you're allowed in, and they made me show my vaccination, and
you're good.
Back to normal. Thank God.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. I hope when we are on the hopefully last stretch with all this crazy stuff, and then we can just kind of get back to at least some normal. I don't think we're going to fully get back, but at least to the point where
I think it's just a matter of time. Things will slowly get better and better and better, and it just has to.
Sure.
It has to.
So
I think we've learned,
Yes.
We've learned from like you said, that you talk about your family and just the mental stress that it put on people. And I think, if anything else happens again, I think people are going to say, hey, the mental stress isn't worth it.
So I have a next question for you, because we are talking about some, different clients. So tell me, what was the most positive experience shooting headshots? Like, if you have any story which you could share, which really kind of make an impact on you and in your career and everything what you do. Do you have anything?
Stories. Kind of funny. I wrote because I listened to your thing with Joe.
Okay.
And I'm like, I think you asked that question.
Yes.
I'm like, I'm trying to. I don't have any.
Oh, you don't have any? Okay.
I don't have any. I don't think I have any stories that really impacted me. Mm-hmm. I mean, I have an ego. I want to do good work. I want to do great work. I want people to, as I just mentioned it, when people tell me that I really enjoyed this experience, that it was the best shoot I've ever had, and I like my photo, and normally this isn't the case. Normally I like despise it, and I'd rather be in the dental chair. Mm-hmm. So just that's it. It's nice. It's great to get the kudos, the pat on the back that you did a good job, and and then I guess the story. It's not direct, but you just have to also realize that you're dealing with people, and some of them are just plain batshit crazy, and you're not going to please them.
Yeah.
I had one client, big law firm client, and an attorney. And I'm taking his pictures and taking pictures, and I shoot tethered so people can kind of see and go. And I also, so I give my rapport speech. I then shoot. I then look at the pictures and they have them pick their final photo, all within a 15-minute window. And the guy's looking at the photos and he hates them all, hates everyone. And I'm like, I never want people leaving hating a photo. And my joke normally is, all right, pick the one you hate the least.
Okay.
But this guy was like, not even I hate the least, I just hate everything. And I'm like, well, tell me, because if I can make some changes, if you tell me, I can make some, try to make a modification to my lighting, to posing. And he's like, So this is a gentleman, he's in his late 60s, well-dressed suit, bald, little hair on the sides, but, gray. And he's like, you know what? He opens his wallet and he shows me, no exaggeration, he shows me his black and white college ID photo. With a full jet black head of hair and, 50 pounds lighter. And he says, this is what I want to look. I mean, he was angry that I took these pictures. Like, this is what I want to look. And, so it's I guess the only lesson is just like, you can't please everybody. As good of a job as you try. I actually said, you need therapy. I don't think I ever lose a client because he goes back, hey, this guy's mouthing off to me.
He's never coming back anyways, right? So.
I'm like, seriously, guy, you need, this is This photo's 40 years. Who wouldn't like to look 40 years younger?
Yeah.
I look pretty good in my 20s, you know?
Yeah.
My goodness. So.
But don't you think this is like this? The people have issues with themselves. There's nothing to do with you.
Yes. Oh, speaking of COVID, yeah, this is the worst thing about COVID.
Yeah.
Everyone's coming back to the office and they're like, oh, I just put the suit on for the first time. No one can fit into their clothes. Nobody. Every single suit jacket is like this. And I'm like, wow. They're like, I'm like, button your jacket. I like the V. I like the straight, the straight lines of the V. I ask you, button your jacket. They're like, yeah, no, that's
Forget.
Yeah. So yes, please, get new clothes that fit.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, like we were just stuck for 2 years, right? Like almost, and yeah. Okay, so one final question I have for you. What would be one advice you would give to someone who is starting headshot photography career? I know I'm trying to push some hard stuff, but
no. I like the question, and the question is good because, as I told you, I kind of moved to a new city, trying to start a new life here. I mean, I'm back and forth. I'm in New York and Miami, and my Miami business is basically zero. So the advice that if I give my self would be to which is all the mistakes that I'm making is when you get a client. It's so easy, as they always say, to get a repeat client than it is to find a new client. So when you do get a client, stay in contact with them. You must, and I'm not doing this, but you must have an email mailing list that you send, capture their email and any information. You have a CRM, customer relation management software, where you know their birthday. So you're sending just a constant reminder to your clients that, hey, I'm here. Hey, maybe I'm running a special. I don't do that. I mean, I have been doing this for so long. I've got just a gazillion list of clients that just constantly call me. So I'm kind of lazy. But that's a 100% thing. Also, when you're new, again, I'm thinking about this. And I remember hearing about this from another business that I used to have a computer training company. And I remember going to this seminar given by this gigantic computer training company. And he said, there's a list of clients that are in my city that I want. There's 500 companies. So regardless of wherever you're living right now, if you want to do corporate, I only do corporate headshots. If you want to do corporate, get a list of every corporation, in your town, city, village, or whatever you want to do business with. And put it into some type of database and start calling them. And this guy, it was great advice. And I remember, this was 30 years ago. He's like, I know I'm in business today. I know I'm a photographer, so we say I'm a photographer. I know I want to be a photographer in 10 years. And I know I want you, Google as my client, Facebook as my client, or whatever, XYZ Corporation as my client. So I'm going to call you today. And you maybe say no. And this was actually cold calling, which I've done, and I've gotten big law firm. I got big clients from cold calling. But somehow, however you want to, in this day and age, reach out through social media. Just make that list and contact them. And they might say, no, we got our guy, or just no. But that person's going to leave eventually 3 years, and someone else is going to replace them, and you might just catch them at the right time. So that's definitely one piece of advice starting out. Social media, which I don't do at all. I don't do Facebook. I don't do Instagram. I think I've got like 10 headshots on my Instagram. But do that. Constantly just post every day and just make it a ritual that Monday mornings from 9 to 10, I don't shoot. I do my social media. Have a routine. And for me, I know this is going to now go against you and your skills, and you're awesome. And I look up to you because of your skills as a photographer and as a retoucher. But for me, the greatest thing I ever did was outsource my retouching. Oh my goodness. I spend so many hours. I'm also kind of like a volume guy. Like my prices aren't that high. There's plenty of photographers that are, charge a lot more than I do. I'm doing volume. I delivered 101 headshots so far for the month of October.
Oh wow, okay.
And we're not even done yet. 101. Imagine retouching 101 headshots. I'm good. And for me, oh my goodness, and I know you got your headshot training is amazing. Your retouching training is awesome. I remember taking it, and when we took the seminar, you taught us all these little tips and tricks. Oh my goodness! but for me, so much time freed up, and I spent years and years finding a retoucher. Like, oh, after the third one they suck. Got another one they suck. Firing, never use them again. Finally finding it. I'm not going to say who it is because you're all going to want to use her. I will say she's in the Ukraine, and it's phenomenal. The best thing I ever did. It frees up. Look, I've got so much time, and it's just. And when I'm doing a shoot now, I finish shooting. The client picks their photo, and while I'm at the client, I always ask for their Wi-Fi. I drop the photos into my Dropbox and send an email to my retoucher. Boom. So I leave the client. I'm done. For the most part. Beginners, get your lights closer.
Yes.
A little simple tip. Your lights are too far away, most of them. Jam the light in as close as you possibly can. And the help that your technique of using, the zoom at, using the 70 to 200, going closer to 200 to compress your backgrounds, makes that easier. I think that's great. And social media, which I don't use. And as a beginner, join groups, and show your images. I look at images. I've got clients, Rafal. I look at some old photos, and I'm like, how is this client still with me? I'm looking at these photos I took 7 years ago. They suck. They're dark. The color balance is so beyond off and miserable, and I'm like, I don't know why they keep. Again, I'm likable, and that's why. So maybe that's another point. Be likable and be the yes guy. I'm the yes man. No matter what you request. Oh, can you do this? Can we do this? Oh, I need the photo today.
Yes.
That's only going to take 2 days. It's not. Well, it's going to be another 45 hours. And I guess maybe I'm not a good business person, but I never say no or there's going to be a charge. Yeah. And so I'm the guy. And a lot of clients, I know they have a couple of photographers. Big clients, they'll have more than one. And I know no matter what, I'm going to be the guy that I'm not going to give you as a marketing manager difficulty. I show up always on time. I show up professional, and I dress well. And I've had banking clients that said, I've got like other vendors of videography companies. They dress like slobs, and they show up and they're interviewing our, videotaping our executives. They just look like crap. I always show up in dress pants and a dress shirt. And it's such a simple thing, but I don't show up in sneakers and a t-shirt. So I think that's it.
No, I think, those are great tips. And I agree with you when it comes to retouching. I have a little bit of different approach, but doesn't mean I don't agree with you, because if you shoot volume and then you're busy with other stuff, and then, I think the biggest issue is finding the right person, because if you have the right team,
it's ridiculously difficult.
But then when you can find it, it completely changes the game, because, I think finding these days people, and I think it's interesting when you said about you have someone from Ukraine, because I've worked also with some retouchers from Romania and some other places, and it's, again, like, I'm not trying to discourage anybody, but I found that, people who are kind of a little bit desperate for money and they're getting paid well, they will go beyond and above to makes you happy, deliver quickly, do the job, no bitching and complaining that you have to do some, kind of adjustments. They will work with you to make your clients happy. So I'm 100% with you on that, because I know that, definitely can help you and speed up the process and business and just, so...
remember, it's the photography again. Like they say, it's show business. It's photography business. If you're a photographer and you think of yourself as an artist, you should. I don't never think of myself as an artist. This is just a mechanism for me. But you want to be successful. You can, and it's really a decision. You can either be a struggle. You can either struggle or you can be successful. And the success comes from obviously delivering a good product, but it's really focus on your business. Make sure you're spending, as they say, spend time on your business, not in your business. That you're thinking about your marketing constantly. That you're thinking about, little upsells. Like now, I never used to do it, but now it's like, and then with the times that are changing, it's nice. You've now got people that aren't, men especially, aren't wearing ties as much. So it's like you can have a shirt with a tie, a shot with a tie, and then maybe more casual without. So that's an easy upsell. I don't do it as much as I should, but just think about business. Right? You want a black and white set of black and whites. That can be an upsell. Different backgrounds can be an upsell. I don't do as much of this just because I've got so much volume. Luckily,
Yeah, you don't have to worry about it. Yeah.
But think of it, it's your business. Treat it as a business, not as a hobby, not as not as an artist creating art. If you're doing headshots, sorry to say, you're creating nice images. Your images especially are gorgeous and beautiful, and I'm so attracted to them.
You.
And it's just, and you have this ridiculous style that I'm scrolling through, my phone, boom, you just, that's you, that's the fall. Definitely, you put $1 billion gun to my head. If you guess wrong, it's wrong. I know that's the fall. And it's great, but treat it as a business.
Yes.
And then if you deliver ridiculously beautiful images, you're going to be at the top of your game. Yeah.
100% agree.
People like you.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Well, I think again 100% agree with what you're saying, and we talked a little bit before we started that you should, because you have some teaching background, you should really teach this stuff to people. Because I think we sometimes getting caught up in, those stupid myths and ideas, and we kind of try to make it work. But you looking at, I think, this whole thing from, I would say, very, very practical and very business side. Mm-hmm. And I think we all need that, because in order to be successful, you have to sometimes, see at things completely different, right? And then try to make your life easier, at the same time make money, and make your clients happy, and just to kind of get this whole thing working to make a living out of this. So I really appreciated your advice, because I've learned a lot as well, because I also kind of get sometimes caught up with the ego and all this stuff. So
that's the key. It's always be learning.
Yes, yes, and having those type of discussions, I think, always helps, right? Because everyone has a different experience, everyone has different approach. We also, living in a little bit of different cities, because Calgary and New York, it's day and night comparison. There's a little bit of different kind of corporate world, so that's also is a little bit challenging. But again, there's always something to learn, and we've been in this industry for decades, and it's still something, as you said, like, oh, maybe I should start upscaling the sales or whatever. There's always something to learn, right? And it's always process, and then sometimes those things takes time, and we need to, I would say, get mature to make those decisions, and especially when you implement them and they start working, it's like, shit, why I didn't do this for long, you know what I mean? It's like,
sure, like raising prices. That's such a hard thing, and it's such a difficult thing to do. And even though my prices are really reasonable, I still have raised them over the years, and I got some pushback. But most of the time, it's okay. It's fine. It's like, oh, it's nice, and even I'm still on the low end of things, but it makes a difference.
Yes.
But just always be learning. Always be learning.
Perfect. Okay, so let's stop here. I think I really appreciated this conversation.
Sure. Thank you. I learned a lot from you.
Yes, thank you so much for joining and making this work, because I know you're also super busy guy, and you've got a lot of stuff on your plate. So I will tag all the links to you if people might have, I don't know, questions to you. Maybe they can reach out.
Sure, I'm happy. I love helping. I love being a help.
You've got a lot of I would say, very, very great experiences, and then you can just give some really valuable, I would say, advice for some of those folks. Okay, so thank you so much. We'll stay in touch, and we'll have to do it at some point again, because when this maybe COVID pass and we're gonna kind of get back to business.
It'll be interesting to see. Although I'm setting myself up for disaster here.
Yeah.
I'm now kind of spending my time in Miami, brand new. I have no client base. I've got nothing. So to see if over a period of time if I've done anything with it.
Sure.
So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, because New York and Miami also kind of different cities, right? They
very different. Culture's different. It's much smaller. It's but we'll see. Yeah.
See what
happens.
So
anyway, I wish you a lot of luck. Be well. Stay safe.
Okay. Bye bye now.
It's been a pleasure, Rapport.
Thank you.